Welcome back to Just Giants with Grump and the Cranky Fan, the best damn podcast for the best damn football team. I am your host, the Football Grump. With me, as always, is Mike, the Cranky Fan, and we are back after another week of, this time, basically no news, right?
Yeah, this is one of my favorite times of the year. We all have basketball and hockey teams in the playoffs. Some of us have first place baseball teams, and we have a draft coming up. So every day is excitement. So fortunately, the Giants are laying low on the news front, and usually no news is good news in the off season. That means nobody's getting arrested. It's doing something stupid. So I'm good with some low news right now.
No, that's the best, honestly. I can't really handle news and the draft at the same time. To be honest, it's pretty difficult. There is hockey playoffs going on. Really excited for Devils Rangers. I think also both teams are poised for success for several years, so we'll get plenty of years of this, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Which means that it gives us more time to talk about things like this instead of off-season junk, which is all right. Correct me if I'm wrong. So we're going to talk about the Michael Lombardi thing, where he decided to say that the quote disease of me has entered the Giants locker room. Went on a rant about how the team decided to pay Daniel Jones, but quote is not going to pay Saquon Barkley and has not yet handled Dexter Lawrence, and the players have noticed or whatever, and that all the players know that it was Saquon Barkley that got them to the playoffs last year, not Daniel Jones, blah, 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 blah. This is the kind of thing that happens when there is nothing to talk about, right?
Yeah, this is somebody that once had a little bit of relevancy. He used to be on Bill Simmons' podcast all the time, and he, got a little bit of a brand from being on that, and basically he wasn't fired because he was a guest, but like fell out of favor with Simmons and kind of disappeared. I don't, it's the first I've thought of him in quite some time, and that's someone. Those are the type of statements where it's obviously you're trying to get clicks and trying to get relevancy again. I mean, how would a clubhouse or a locker room react to these things when we're in the off season and they're not together? I mean, this week we're starting a little mini camp, but you know, what is his? Unless he has spies who hang out with these guys all the time, which I really doubt. He's a Philly guy, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, I don't know the answer to
He's
that.
definitely a South Jersey guy. I think he's a Philly guy, but it's really silliness. He has no idea of what the offseason plan is or how they're approaching free agency with Dexter Lawrence or anything. Um, you know, I remember back when they drafted Daniel Jones, he thought he was a joke from the very beginning. He used to, make fun of him. So again, he's someone who's dying on his hill, and his hill is proving wrong. So sometimes people just ignore what they said in the past and say something completely different. Some people double down and die on their hill, and that's kind of what he's doing with this. It's just really silly and really shouldn't mean much of anything, to be very honest. I'm sure the front office could care less what Mike Lombardi says. I'm sure the players could care less what he says. Players care about two things: getting paid and winning. They don't care about this other nonsense he's talking about.
Yeah, I think it also, it's just kind of silly, because it doesn't really make any sense. If you talk to any player that's like in the midst of contract negotiations or anything like that, like the first thing they usually say is like, it's a business. That is the understood part of this. And the Giants didn't really do any of the things that he was kind of claiming they were doing, like not paying Saquon Barkley and not paying Dexter Lawrence. Like, they're going to pay Dexter Lawrence. They are already talking about that. Saquon Barkley was offered a contract. He turned it down. Now he's getting the franchise tag, a boo-hoo of $10 million. What do you mean they're not paying him? They are paying him.
Yeah.
So, like, none of it makes any sense to begin with. And the only thing the Giants did that you could say was a business move, and there's nothing wrong with it, is they just utilized the leverage they had. They got their deal done with Daniel Jones first because they were more comfortable with the tag on Barkley than they were him, which has nothing to do with anything. I mean, that would be the one thing where if you could say anybody was upset about anything, and it's very much umbrella of it's a business. Like, it was not a move that was done maliciously. They still want to have him on the team.
How much did they offer him before was the contract? 12 million?
I mean, all of it's alleged, so like I don't
All
want to
right.
like put too much in it, but yes, 12 million I believe was the alleged number. So it's 2 million more than what he's getting with the tag anyway. And also, are we really complaining about $10 million for a running back? Is by nature of the tag itself top 5 money.
Yeah.
So
I mean, serious disrespect. I mean, a guy that has been injured almost as much as he's played. He's not exactly Jim Brown. I mean, he's a really good running back. He's not an all-time great. He's. I just don't understand. When people jump in off the top rope at saying things like disrespected or, it's beyond silly.
let the players speak for who disrespected them. Like it's like a weird thing to be like that's disrespectful for. I mean, let them speak up.
Yeah.
Who are you to say anything is disrespectful to anybody? Like.
Yeah, well, that's kind of the problem with this world, isn't it, Grump? That everybody's in their own feelings about everything. Everybody has an opinion about everything. Everybody has feelings about everything, and they are personally offended. Let me tell you something. Saquon Barkley can give one fuck about your feelings about anything that happens to you. He could care less. Sure, he's a nice guy, but does not care about the 20 million people in the greater New York area and what their opinions are about him.
It would be unreasonable. But like, so here's the second half of this rant he went on, was about how the players know that it was Saquon Barkley that got them to the playoffs and not Daniel Jones or something along those lines. Not only is that silly that the players know or care who did what, maybe did anyone consider, because every time this comes up, Giants fans start to argue as to who did it and who was more effective and who wasn't. And I'm not really going to interject in that, but did we consider the fact that the Giants don't want Saquon Barkley to be the engine of this offense? Maybe they want him to be the component. Maybe they want Daniel Jones to be the engine of this offense.
What does that even mean? I mean, that's it's so stupid. It's like, I last time I checked, I look on the back of a football card. It doesn't say Saquon Barkley engine. It doesn't say Daniel Jones component. It's running back. I mean, and the
thing that's silly is that Daniel Jones is always going to be at his best with a dynamic running back behind him. It doesn't have to be Barkley, but he's always going to be better with a guy like that. So it's always going to be kind of like a tag team offense, because part of what makes him good is his threat to run, and you can always double that threat with a running back. It just makes sense. It's always going to be this way. There's no sense in having this argument. Daniel Jones is the one who's always going to get the money. He's the quarterback. It's just how it works. I don't... Very, very bizarre stretch of logic as to who is more important. It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
The Giants want Daniel Jones to be the future. That's
right.
What it is.
I mean, our next topic in a second, we're talking about Jalen Hurts and the contract he had. But the bottom line in this thing is, if you think you have your quarterback, you pay for him. Period.
Exactly. Yep.
It doesn't matter. If you think you've got the guy, having the guy in your mind means you don't have to worry about, wasting your time in a draft, thinking about other free agents, worrying about, if I have to get another quarterback next year, do I have to scrap this offense I have right now? You have this quarterback, you lock him up. That means I have certainty in a league where there's very little certainty. You know that this is the guy we're building around. You know what his strengths are. You know what his weaknesses are. You know what you need to build around him. Case closed. But all that stuff is a lot easier than finding the guy. And you're right. That's what this league is. This is a quarterback-driven league. More and more so now. This is more of an offensive league, and the rules have changed to allow more offense. It relies on a quarterback who has multiple skill sets that he did 15 years ago. You think you got him, you lock him up, you pay, and you build around.
Jalen Hurts' contract was, I believe, signed today. It was reported, I believe, this morning, I think, right? My sense of time is all off.
This morning.
Yeah. I'm sure Michael Lombardi has no problem with this contract extension because, I don't know, Jalen Hurts was signed to a team that more recently went to a Super Bowl. Whatever. Tell me a little bit about Jalen Hurts' contract. I mean, good for them, good for him. It seems right to me.
I think people are just like, their eyes are popping out of their head because again, they just look at the number. That's a huge number for the length of the contract if it is executed over the full term of the contract. But to me, it goes right back to the same point. They found their guy. They found their guy who's had success. Um, you know, they found a guy they think that can get them to the Super Bowl. They know this is a very good team this year with a young quarterback who is the cornerstone of that franchise. You pay him. Don't dick around. Don't cause, you know, you start worrying about contracts in the future and it starts getting close to the time. You don't need to have, the he said, she said in the press and everything. And you don't, especially a town like Philly where they're going to, jump on every word that they say, and you're going to cause factions, the pro and the con hurts pro and the con of the team for it. If everybody's in agreement, you pay. Again, the cap's only going to go up in the next few years. And, in 4 years, the Hurts deal might be a relative bargain. I'm pretty sure he's going to get better and better in the next couple of years. And, we'll see. But I don't have any problem with it. I think it's actually a pretty good deal for Philly. It's cap friendly the first few years. And, they'll make some decisions, but those decisions aren't being made, 3-4 years now. And that's an eternity in the NFL.
The next 4 years, his cap number is 6,000,000, 13.5, 21 3/4, and then 31 3/4. For those first 3 years, that's like nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, for a guy who performs like a top 5 quarterback in the league, right? I mean,
Sure.
I think in a different offense, he's probably not that, but in the offense he's in, that's what he is.
I mean, in a different offense, Lamar Jackson is not good.
That's yeah, correct.
In a different offense, Mahomes may not be what he is. So I mean, everything is the sum of its parts, and that's also a front office and a coaching staff's job also is to maximize the talent they have to win. So you're put in these positions to succeed, and then it's up to you to go up and execute to succeed.
I don't know. I think that these are great numbers for Philly. I think that they did what they had to do. I didn't have a doubt that it would happen. And
let me ask you something, Grump.
Yeah.
It might be a little early for this, but all things equal, do you rather have the Philly front office or the Giants front office?
I think I would rather have the Giants front office just because it's tied so closely to Dable. I think that's the tiebreaker for me right there. I think they're more entwined than Nick Sirianni is.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I think that's a big part of it.
That Eagle front office,
they're savvy, man. I mean, they've been good for a very long time now.
Yeah. And again, I said that may not be fair because this front office has really only been together for not even 2 drafts yet. So we don't know, there's not enough sample size and body of work, but,
I mean, like, credit to them. They've managed to win with a coaching staff they didn't stay with a quarterback. With quarterbacks they didn't stay with. So, like, obviously there's that as, like, a positive. But to me, the negative is they haven't found those things. I don't think Nick Sirianni is the coach that's going to be there much longer. I know what just happened, whatever. Doug Peterson won a Super Bowl and he wasn't there that much longer. So I don't think either one of those things, and I don't think Jalen Hurts is going to be their answer long term. I think once the offense changes, the expectations change, I think the cracks start to show at the same time the money kicks in, and it just becomes easier for a fresh start with a different coach, with a different offense, with a different QB. I think that's kind of what's going to happen. So the tiebreaker for me is I think that Brian Daboll might be very close to a quarterback whisperer of some kind in a way where he can maximize talents and build an offense around it so that he'll always have a quarterback that's kind of his. And I think that Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen are very closely tied. So that's my tiebreaker. If that
why
makes
do you
sense.
think Sirianni's not long for the job? You think he'll get poached somewhere else? Do you think he'll outstay his welcome? Like, think he's one of those guys that has like kind of like a meteor when he goes somewhere and he kind of...
I thought he was kind of a joke to begin with, and I think that is not at all related to where I'm at now. I think that he made a lot of very good decisions with his offensive coordinator. But I think he made bad decisions with his defensive coordinator, and I don't even think he noticed. And I think that he is doomed to not care about his defense enough. And I also think that the offense is going to take a step back this year, and because they lost that coordinator. And I just think that my feelings on him as a legit person changed around the time of the Super Bowl, just looking at the way he was acting. I don't know if that's like stupid to say or not, but like he's just kind of, he got very caught up in himself, I think, possibly as like a celebrity-ish figure very early in his career. At the same time, I think he's relying on a lot of other things for his success. It looks like a recipe for disaster. I'm not saying it's going to be. It's just a feeling I have.
That's interesting because, you could very easily see that happening to Dable when he first got here.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, he was at
You're not wrong.
He was at every Ranger game during that run to the Eastern Conference Finals, which they lost to the Lightning, by the way. But he was always on the scoreboard, and he was like one of the faces, he was like the celebrity face of Ranger fans.
That was before he actually did anything.
No. I'm saying but like, my point is that he didn't let I'm the coach of the New York Football Giants in New York City get to his head at all. Where I think what you're saying is about Sirianni is like the success he had has gotten to his head. He's become a cartoon character of himself.
I think a lot of the things that you can find of Dable being a little cartoony or whatever, whatever, they're very behind the scenes situations. They're in the locker room. He's playing with the players. Nick Sirianni was doing shit in front of the camera, very much like a player. And those are two different attitudes, in my opinion. I again, this really could be nothing. I mean, you asked me a question, I kind of went off and thought about it.
Could be.
He very well could be the coach there for a decade and a half, and I could hate his guts because he's so good. And like, he's not without creativity. Like, I'm not saying but Doug Peterson, I don't think, was an awful coach either. It's clear that he's at least good enough to run a team.
He has earned my respect more. I thought he was kind of a clown early in his career in Philly, and I think what he's done in Jacksonville, with such a mess that team was, not even 12 months later, and you add that on to the fact that he won a Super Bowl. I mean, that's like, okay, well, take my personal feelings aside, yes, I have to admit the guy's a pretty good coach.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not like he turned around, the Bucks from 70 whatever, the worst of first team. This is a team covered in first round draft picks with one of the best quarterbacks I've seen play college ball.
That's true, but he also basically had to hit the reset button on him after basically the first year with him was wasted under Urban Meyer, and that complete disaster. I mean, that hit the complete pause button on that whole team for a year. Nothing.
Well, not even. I mean, you could see the change in him mid-year with Trevor Lawrence. He still wasn't very good at the beginning of that. The whole team wasn't very good at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, I mean, remember, going back to the Eagles really quick, we did our preview shows before this 21 season, and we were just completely baggy on that team. We thought they had the worst offensive line in football. We just thought they were a complete mess. And then, 2 years later, they're one of the elite teams in this league, and that was a pretty quick turnaround.
Yeah. I don't think it's like any secret either that the Giants went right after their front office when they took the assistant there. So
sure.
Whose name I always forget, and I feel bad. I want to say it's like Bobby Brown or something like that, but
it's a new addition. It's a new addition front office for the Giants. So.
Anyway, they've done a very good job of pulling veteran players and getting them to sign, in niche roles for cheap money. But they really did go out and get Bobby Okereke. And I think we're going to talk about the linebacker position a little bit. This was a huge issue for the team. It was a big issue for fans. And I don't know, personally, I'm not really that worried about it anymore. They went out and got Bobby Okereke. And, like, to me, the linebacker position was something that was like, it's one of those difference maker spots where they were lacking in the ability to just, shut down the run game consistently add an extra element of rushing the passer and covering things like tight ends and running backs out of the backfield on those third down situations where they would get kind of bent over backwards. It wasn't like the center position where like we have just nobody. They had Micah McFadden play all last year. They went out and got Jared Davis to help him out. They retained him. They had drafted Darian Beavers last year as well. He was getting a lot of preseason snaps. It was a problem. They needed to address it, but they went, like we were saying, like all of the positions of need, they went out and they got something to allow flexibility in the draft. This, to me, signing Bobby Okereke almost completely eliminates the need to draft a linebacker in this draft. I don't know if you agree with that or not.
I agree. You're right. When you need a lot of different things, there's some things you want to kind of table for next year. Doesn't mean that the position is fortified for the next 7 or 8 years, but it's something where I want to table this as a need for 2024, whether it's through free agency or through the draft. So it's a very good placeholder signing that provides short-term quality, but is the bridge until we want to draft for the future. Let's address other needs first right now.
Yeah, and I don't even think that this is a good off-ball linebacker draft. I know that might not be like kind of a popular opinion on some of the guys in this draft. I think I'm not really sure. I think that there is just nobody that stands out head and shoulders in this draft as a linebacker that's just ready to go. And to me, there's not even day one talent. I think the top guys are Jack Campbell from Iowa, I think is the best guy in this draft. He looks the part. He sort of kind of plays the part. He's got some speed concerns for me. I think his speed concerns are exacerbated by being slow to diagnose what he's reading, which is bad.
That's not a great combination.
It's not a great sign. But I mean, they're not awful speed concerns. He's just not elite in that manner, the way he is with everything else. He's 6'5", 250 pounds. I mean, that is how you draw up a linebacker. I guess it's even big. I think he could develop into a three-down linebacker. Dayan Henley from Washington State's another one. He's got all the athletic traits you want. He's 6'1" and 225, so he sort of looks the part as well. Maybe a little bit on the small side, but it does kind of feel like he's just running around out there. He overruns plays all the time. He looks another draft person. I had to confirm this because I wasn't sure if I was just wrong about him, but I think maybe it was Lance Zierlein described him as active but not instinctive, and I think that's actually pretty apropos.
I feel like instincts are a prerequisite in the NFL. You might be able to get away with that in college or even in the SEC, but when you're getting to the NFL where these guys are bigger, stronger, faster, smarter, more experienced, you have to have that innate ability to know where you're going to be before you even think about it. And if instinct is a question mark, that's something that raises my alarm bells.
Me too, man. I got to say, like, even if you're wrong, I don't want you to like pussyfoot about it. Like, just go. Like, it's okay to be. The best players are wrong sometimes. So like, there's that as well. But
they're also, if they have good. Even if they're wrong, their instincts will get them to the right spot, and they may make a play on the back end of something.
Right. And I have to agree. Like, there's some positions that where maybe instincts are not the most important thing. Like, I think if you're a defensive tackle, instincts will separate the elite from very good, but if you're disruptive, I mean, that's like 90% of their job is to be disruptive. I don't think you necessarily need instincts. I don't know. Now I'm talking in circles. That's not really true, but linebacker especially, instincts, when you're wrong, a good play will become a horrible play very, very quickly. And for me, when you have an athletic guy that shows that he's not really sure what he's doing, it just sounds to me like you're getting another Tay Crowder, which I didn't really have a whole lot of problems with Tay Crowder's athletic ability or anything like that. It just seemed to be that he was still learning the position and he didn't have any natural instincts for it. His natural instincts were understanding that holes were opening in front of him because he used to be a running back, I think. But like, he would jump the wrong gaps all the time. He would vacate his spot all the time. It was a problem, and it made the running game bad.
He's not a natural football player. He just doesn't have the instincts. He just, you know.
He, I mean, I guess so.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to me, like, all of these guys can probably be developed to be good at this stuff. That my top three guys: Jack Campbell, Dan Henley, Dorian Williams. I think that they all can be developed into something that's can be productive at the next level, and they will use to their advantage. If they don't want or can't get any of those guys, because I do think they'll be overdrafted, there's like only situational or depth options, in my opinion, on day 3. And I do think that Drew Sanders from Arkansas is a day 3 guy. I do think Trenton Simpson's a day 3 guy. And when I say that, I mean, that's still upside. They could prove me wrong, but right now I see more downside than upside with them.
You know what's interesting? You have mentioned Arkansas quite a bit on this show. Every
they have
week.
A couple players, yeah.
Yeah, it seems like this is like the 3rd week in a row I've heard Arkansas come up. So
Drew Sanders is a weird one, right? He was brought to my attention. He's a converted edge rusher, I think. He's also very tall, 6'4", and I can understand why people really like him, but I do have him as a day 3 guy. I think that he's not very decisive, and that could be because he's still learning the position. Like, don't confuse decisive with aggressive, because he is a downhill guy. He's got an imposing size. He's a good tackler. He's got a knack for creating turnovers too. But he doesn't make that decision fast enough for me. So, like, he can still be a step late even at the SEC level. I mean, you put that up at the NFL level, and you might as well be 6 steps too late. It doesn't matter. So that's a big problem for me. I also think he's not very good at rushing between the tackles. He still does some edge rushing for Arkansas, or whatever. He did edge rushing for them. And he seems to win mostly with, like, one move and speed. And at the A-gap pressure from, like, the middle linebacker off-ball spot, he just runs in too tall. He runs in at, like, all 6'4" of himself, and he just gets stonewalled, in my opinion. And he can kind of be disruptive if the situation is right. If there's a twist or just a bad lineman or something, he can get by them the same way he gets by on the edge with kind of like one move and then just get free. I don't think he's going to face that many bad offensive linemen in the NFL. I don't know what his production in Arkansas is really going to translate to at the NFL level. So it seems like a lot more guesswork to me than proven quantities.
Right. They had that weird defense too at Arkansas.
They fucking threw the whole kitchen sink at people, man. It was pretty wild.
What did they do? Like a 3-2-6 they were doing for a while, like that, all sorts of crazy stuff.
They had a lot of really weird alignments, yeah, and they rushed pressure from a lot of different places too.
Yeah,
very very aggressive. A lot of man coverage too, I think. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. To me, I think the signing of Bobby Okereke, I'm okay with not even worrying about linebacker. And day 3, if you find somebody that fell or you think there's upside, go ahead and grab them, because it's still a weak position group. But I don't know, man. I don't think they're the linebacker of the future for this team is even in this draft. I just don't see it. Mm-hmm. I could be wrong. I mean, like, Jack Campbell's pretty good. He doesn't look dominant yet. I wouldn't spend a first-round pick on him.
So that's probably the assessment that the front office made, and that's why they made the deal to get a Carcray. Probably was just like,
I think so. I mean,
I don't see any game changers out there that we want to spend high draft picks with. So let's lock in somebody that will make a difference.
Well, yeah, there's like no game changers, but also there's very few options that are like starter quality. Like there's not a whole lot of like column A, column B going on here.
Right.
So it's just like, it's kind of going to be first at the table. So I think that may have had a hand in their offseason priorities. Yeah, sure.
And that, you appreciate a front office that's looking holistically at everything. Their big board is not guys who are being drafted. Their big board is everybody who's available. So,
yeah,
they made, you know what I mean? It's like they made the assessment. And I think that might be the smartest move. So that's why we always say, and you always say, that you draft players, you don't draft positions. This sounds like a good example of that.
I mean, I think so. Yeah. I think it would be folly. I mean, unless they think that one of those three is going to be there for them and is their guy, I think it would be folly to take any of these guys and make it work. But look, I'm going to say this straight up. I'm not going to be real mad about it because I don't take myself as seriously as I take the Giants, I guess. Meaning I'm not going to take my draft analysis over the front office. There are more of them. They have more experience than me. And when the Giants draft the players they draft, I'm going to do double, triple work on them. I mean, I do limited work to get as many players as I can done, enough that I think I'm getting an accurate assessment, and then I'll quit, which is usually 3 games. Sometimes it's 2. Depends on how far down the chain, I think. Or sometimes it depends on priority, right? Like quarterbacks, Giants aren't drafting a quarterback, so I'm not doing a ton of work on quarterbacks. But that being said, when the Giants draft who they draft, I will be doing double, triple work on them, and I might change my mind on anything that I've said. But even if I don't, I'm still going to hold my reservations, but defer to the experts.
And I know one place where I'll find all that great work you'll do besides this wonderful program. There's a sister show, a companion show, a yin to our yang. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so I started up the Football Grump YouTube channel where I'm just going over draft stuff. It's kind of hodgepodge, my thoughts. I did a couple of rankings. I did wide receiver rankings, cornerback rankings, and I also did just general thoughts on my top wide receivers in this draft. I have another video that's going to come out soon about the cluster of similar day 2 wide receivers that I like and I think are interesting to talk about. I got really sick over the weekend, so I did literally 0 work. Nothing. I just prepared linebackers for the show. So I've been literally bedridden. I didn't go to work today. So I'm not sure. I thought that video was planning. I wanted that out on Monday, but it'll come out when it comes out. But also, I will be live on Talking Giants for the draft itself, which is next week. Next week, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I'll be on Talking Giants.
You're going to be here all 3 days?
Yeah. I'm going to do that.
That's awesome.
I'm going to be there. I'm on multiple different shows as well. Oh, and we were on Toilets to Titles with Joseph Clark.
That was awesome. Yeah, we really appreciated it. That was a lot of fun. Now I'm going to be on the Giant Rush draft show on Friday. I'm a day 2 draft person, obviously. Grump is your top 5 pick. He's probably with the first pick in the draft. I am more of when ESPN is talking about somebody and there's 3 picks that go on while they're talking about the guy who's picked before. I'm the guy that kind of slip in for draft coverage, but I know my lane. But I'm going to be on their show talking about the Giants, obviously, so that'll be fun for me.
That's awesome, man.
And I might come to Talking Giants and heckle you guys one day if I'm not doing anything that weekend. It is only my anniversary, but
that's right.
It's also draft.
I think also. So next week, what do you want to do? We haven't talked about safeties, edge rushers, defensive line. We haven't talked generally about the draft, what we think. What do you want to do?
I think we just talked generally about the draft next week.
I think so too, man.
I think we're so close. I think
I'll slip in some info about those 3 spots, like maybe my top guys or guys to anchor on for those 3.
That's what I'm thinking.
Groups, yeah.
But
we'll focus mainly on like what do you do at 25? What are you worried about?
We'll throw in some scenarios and how would you go if you were Joe Shane?
Yeah, or just general draft thoughts like that. That's great. So we'll be doing that, and then we will not have an episode until, I don't know, man. Are we going to be able to have like?
I do not believe I'm going anywhere that weekend. We might be able to sneak something in over the weekend.
Yeah, but we'll definitely have like a reaction thing. I'll probably be active on my Grump channel, and then I think we're probably going to end up taking a little bit of a break.
Yeah, don't worry, guys. We're talking like maybe a week.
Yeah,
we're not going into hibernation for 6 months or anything. So, because Grump needs some sleep. He's been working nonstop and it's all his coverage and everything.
Well, both of us have been working a lot too, so
oh god,
it's been not easy.
I've been working like 70 hours a week, and then also we have to deal with the Knicks the Rangers slash Devils slash Bolts.
Just
That's a
life.
lot of stuff. Life, yeah. There's a lot going on. So, once we understand, who we're drafting, we'll obviously talk about that a little bit. Then we'll just kind of worry about the playoffs and come back fresh for this.
That's right. So you know where to catch us: iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify, YouTube, etc. Same thing with my show. You can catch us also. You can catch Cranky Fan on New York Giants Rush on Friday. Is that live?
We are going live. Yeah, I believe so.
There you go. So live for that, and we will catch you all next time. Till then, go Giants.
Go Giants.